Technology transfer is the process by which research findings and new technology are transferred into useful processes, products, and programs. It can serve two functions in a highway agency. It allows the agency to act as receiver of new information from outside sources. And it allows the agency to act as provider of information to various offices within the agency. In this program, we will cover the 7 aspects of technology transfer, a definition of technology transfer, steps in adopting new technology, barriers to implementation, characteristics affecting adoption of technology, organizational characteristics affecting transfer, effective delivery systems, and recommendations for improved technology transfer. There are 2 phases in selecting new technology: the identification phase and the evaluation adoption phase. First, there must be a system in place to continually identify new technology. The evaluation adoption phase involves 6 steps: screening, preliminary examination, detailed evaluation, translation of media to practices, implementation, and feedback. The first step involves an initial introduction and review of the technology by an individual or committee, with a recommendation for rejection or continued investigation. The second step is preliminary examination. It typically includes an in-depth study of all material available, including test reports, research reports, and results from other agencies. Results are summarized, and recommendations are made for detailed evaluation or rejection. The third step involves in-house laboratory or field testing to test performance under local conditions. Completion of this step usually leads to acceptance or rejection of the technology. The fourth step involves the translation to media of practices, or packaging. If the technology is accepted, results must be converted into the media of practice, which includes standards, specifications, manuals, and other internal communications affecting the use of technology. The fifth step is implementation. A program for implementation must be designed and executed. The measures can include demonstrations, policy statements, training materials, documentation feedback, workshops, and promotional announcements. The sixth step is performance feedback. In this step, follow-up and evaluation are carried out to provide documentation of benefits, catch any early failures, and identify any adjustments required to achieve intended objectives. Prior to adopting any new technology, evaluators must consider possible barriers to implementation. Each organization is somewhat unique in its organizational structure, political climate, public priorities, and historical perspective. This diversity tends to weaken the ability to achieve adoption of new technologies. Typical barriers include cost factors, such as initial costs and life cycle costs. If the cost is too high, the likelihood of adoption decreases significantly. Performance is important. The product must perform adequately to be adopted. A number of other factors can also act as barriers. Factors such as unacceptable costs or delays to motorists, loss of employee job rights, lack of equipment for implementation. Low-bid procurement procedures may inhibit its use. Risk of failure may be perceived as too high, and a lack of support by key decision makers. Too often, agencies attempt to implement new technology that has flaws. Promoters often fail to evaluate it against the following evaluation criteria. Relative advantage. How much better is the new method compared to the way things are currently being done? If a major advantage of the new idea over current practices is not perceived, the innovation is not likely to be adopted. Simplicity. Can potential users understand the innovation? Can training be effective in encouraging adoption? If they don't, it will not be used. Trialability. How easy is it to try out the idea? If an agency must change procedures and make commitments that it cannot easily get out of, it usually is very resistant to change, no matter what the merits of the innovation. Observability. How clearly can you see the benefits of the innovation? And how clearly can you communicate them to others? It is good to be able to easily see if the innovation saves money or time, rather than if the benefits are long-term or difficult to explain. Cost. The upfront cost of a new idea is important. If there is an increase in costs, even if the increase results in a long-term savings, it is more difficult to get an idea adopted than if there were an immediate reduction of costs. In addition to the basic information that characterizes the product, other information is required in order to satisfy numerous policy and procedure requirements of various functional areas. For example, purchasing or procurement is interested in the cost, specifications, and legal attributes of the product. On the other hand, maintenance is interested in the performance of the product, method of application, limitations, and handling precautions. These conflicting interests sometimes result in the provision of more information than is necessary. Thus, information must be tailored to the user's needs. This varies for different classes of users. Highway agencies typically require a wide range of other types of information before they can begin evaluation of a new product. This includes trade names of the product, manufacturer and location, recommended use and limitations, laboratory analysis, plans, sketches, photographs, and specifications, royalty cost, guarantee terms, features and advantages claimed, existing standards, plans and specifications, instructions for use, material and in-place costs, limit on availability, willingness to provide samples, and current users. Organizational characteristics also affect technology transfer. There are 4 characteristics that are generally seen as most important. They include risk-taking climate. Some agencies are more willing to take risks than others. Compatibility. The more an idea is compatible with past procedures of the organization, the more likely it is to be adopted. Regulations. The extent to which outside organizations, particularly government, can affect the decisions of an organization by imposing regulations. This can be positive or negative. Labor reaction. The reaction of labor groups will affect whether or not an idea is tried. Any change likely resulting in job losses will need to have significant benefits in order for an organization to try it. Next, let's cover the typical types of delivery systems used for effective technology transfer. These delivery mechanisms will be covered in more detail in the second tape of this series, entitled Establishing an Effective Technology Transfer Program. Circuit riders, or traveling road shows, have numerous advantages, including flexibility, one-to-one assistance, and mobility to reach large numbers of people in their own organizations. Conferences or short courses can also be very effective. You should schedule courses to fit user needs. Carefully plan and advertise courses. Give participants as much advance notice as possible. Pick speakers with great care and let them know the nature of the audiences and their needs. And always use evaluation tools to improve future conferences. Audiovisual aids are also effective. Videotapes are good for work methods, processes. Overheads are good for lecture point highlights. Charts and graphs best illustrate trends and relationships. And slides are also useful in illustrating key learning points. A number of new technologies must also be considered. They include computer networks, video conferencing, interactive video, and others. A number of agency practices, if adopted, can help improve technology transfer. The first involves assigning personnel. Whenever possible, full-time technology transfer specialists should be designated at regional levels. If feasible, these individuals should function as circuit riders to disseminate information on a face-to-face basis. You should also develop a train-the-trainer program for technology transfer specialists. It should include definitions, technology transfer process, factors affecting adoption of innovation, and discrimination techniques. Also, agency personnel should be trained in 4 key areas of importance for successful technology transfer: peer-to-peer information exchange networks, the proper use of communications channels, assessment of user needs using instruments and surveys, and the human element in technology transfer, and workshops in the proper use of writing, speaking, and communication skills. In this program, we have covered the proper steps for effective technology transfer. Technology transfer is the process by which research findings and new technology are transferred into useful products and programs. There are 6 basic steps in the selection process. Initial screening by individual or committee, preliminary examination with a recommendation for detailed evaluation or rejection, detailed evaluation involving field trials or lab testing, translation to media of practice, including standards and specifications, implementation, which includes demonstrations, workshops, and announcements, and performance feedback, which is carried out to document benefits. There are 5 key requirements for new technology to be adopted. The new idea must represent a major advantage over current practice. Relative advantage. Simplicity. It must be easily understood. Trialability. It must be easy to try out. Observability. The benefits must be clearly observable. And costs. The upfront costs are critical. An increase in costs makes it difficult to get an idea accepted. A reduction in costs makes it much more likely. Each agency can also improve its technology transfer process by following some simple recommendations. First, compile and maintain a mailing list. To enjoy a successful transfer of a needed technology, there must be ongoing identification and contact with target clientele. Publish a quarterly or monthly newsletter. This task allows you to reach every person on the mailing list routinely and at minimum cost. Newsletters are easy to publish and provide an excellent method of keeping readers up to date about new technology. Current products should be identified, such as tips on new techniques or products. Technical materials. Agency personnel should also attend leading technical meetings and report to their clientele through the newsletter. Videotapes are particularly well suited for transfer of technical information as well as information on day-to-day operations. Technical materials should target all levels of the clientele. Also, provide information and technical assistance. Make it easy for persons with transportation problems to contact the Technology Transfer Center. A toll-free telephone number is useful for ready access to the center. Training is the most effective means of technology transfer. The center should offer a wide range of training. Another very successful process has been the VAN program. A van is outfitted with video equipment, a supply of publications, demonstration equipment, and other tools of learning. Often, a 4 to 6 hour class is conducted in an equipment barn or other suitable shelter. A periodic assessment should include real measures of performance, both quality and quantity. Items that should be tracked include courses, suggestions, number of students reached, hours of training, location, student evaluations, and feedback from the clientele. There must also be a mechanism to develop new information and training materials. The inclusion of new, state-of-the-art material in the services provided is important to the effectiveness and credibility of the center. For more information on this or other IRF videotapes, write to the International Road Federation or call the numbers on your screen. Technology transfer centers are successful around the world. The primary objective is to improve transportation safety, mobility, efficiency, and economy. The centers provide innovative methods which result in improved roadway infrastructure, especially benefiting those with no ready access to technical information. Lack of basic roadway planning, design, construction, repair and maintenance processes, especially maintenance skills, has denied essential transportation benefits at the local levels, thereby impacting the general welfare of the population and the general economy. Experience with technology transfer centers around the world has shown the most effective centers are those with freedom to tailor operations to the unique needs of their clientele. Most centers follow a basic pattern that has proved to be widely effective, but each respond in their own way to the needs they identify. Freedom of action is essential. For this reason, it is generally held that the center should have full authority to implement activities as they identify the need under the general management of the National Transportation Agency. It is important that the leader of the program have exceptional management skill. A National Transportation Agency should coordinate the overall program, provide funding, and help to develop training courses. The center, in turn, gets advice on the best direction from steering committees, made up of leaders of local transportation agencies. It must be recognized that the required experience and trust essential to success does not happen overnight. Nearly 1.5 to 2 years are required to achieve comprehensive operations. However, it has also been shown that the cost benefit is very high for successful centers. Establishing an effective technology transfer program includes the planning process, organizing the program, and implementing the program. First is the planning process. It involves establishing your philosophy and goals and forecasting technology transfer needs and related program components. The act of putting your philosophy of technology transfer in writing forces you to analyze the goals, objectives, and policies of the enterprise. A sample statement of philosophy may sound like this: modern organizations must take responsibility for effective technology transfer to its employees. The Technology Transfer Center exists primarily to provide organizational benefits. Technology must make a difference, a measurable contribution to enterprise goals and objectives. Experimentation is essential to the improvement of technology transfer. Therefore, thoughtful experimentation should be encouraged so that better solutions to technology transfer problems can be found. Next comes forecasting of technology transfer needs and required program components. The manager of the Tech Transfer Center must be able to identify the immediate and long-range needs of the organization for operational, supervisory, and managerial development programs and related technology. This includes resource requirements such as personnel, equipment, facilities, materials, supplies, and budgets. Organization provides the framework for a group of people to work together to attain the goals and objectives of the enterprise. Applied to tech transfer, organizing is the process of identification and grouping needed activities and functions into logical subdivisions and making delegations of authority. The actual organization for your particular agency will depend on local needs and resources available. The most critical task is to implement the tech transfer program. This involves using the most effective communication methods and technology transfer techniques. In order for innovations to be adopted and used, they need to be communicated to the appropriate audience of users. Here, we will deal with the various communication techniques for technology transfer. The most effective communication is one-to-one personal contact. This contact can take many forms. The technical assistance given in the field, at meetings or conferences, on the job, or through the work of a special technology transfer agent. The least successful method of communication is through passive dissemination of printed materials. While printed materials have their role in the transfer process, their format and the specific way in which they are used is extremely important. No one technique is sufficient to guarantee that an innovation will be adopted. Successful technology transfer is directly related to the use of multiple channels of communication. Even one-to-one technical assistance, for instance, is dependent on the use of videotapes, printed materials, newsletters, and technical notices in order to bring the innovation to the attention of potential users. There are a number of basic guidelines to follow in selecting technology transfer techniques. First, it is important to recognize the capabilities of local maintenance personnel to absorb and understand technical information and to work within the constraints of the agencies who develop such material. Accordingly, technology transfer material should be concise, relevant, and credible. Dissemination should be done at a reasonable cost and should fit within the existing relationship between federal, state, and local highway agencies. It should be noted that the characteristics of the people doing technology transfer in highway maintenance are as important as the techniques they use. A positive, helping attitude, as well as a clear understanding of the problems faced in local agencies, is essential for any technique to be effective. Local personnel in maintenance often feel that outsiders do not understand their situation. They rely heavily on their peers to get information. This means that the people selected for technology transfer have to be carefully chosen. It also has implications for the conduct of research, in that there is a need to ensure that research problems are defined with a clear understanding of local needs and constraints. A number of tech transfer techniques have been used successfully. They include newsletters, circuit riders, short courses, audiovisuals, technical notices, interactive videotapes, video teleconferencing, and electronic bulletin boards. Newsletters are a key method of disseminating information about useful new products and procedures. The term circuit rider is a 19th century American phrase describing a pioneer preacher assigned to a horseback circuit or route on the frontier. The U.S. Department of Agriculture adopted the term to describe a program through which small, rural communities can utilize a professional resource person on a shared basis. In technology transfer, the term is used to describe a similar system, where individuals are used to spread innovation. Whether working out of a station wagon, van, or bus, circuit riders typically equip some kind of vehicle with reports, audiovisual equipment and materials, and microcomputers, and travel within a specific geographic area visiting local user groups. The skills required for a successful circuit rider are many. Probably the most important and least easy to evaluate or describe is the ability to communicate effectively and deal sensitively with a wide range of people: local officials, federal officials, researchers, planners, and road crews. Circuit riders must also be able to translate technical materials out of jargon and into a language which users can understand. Normally, a research report cannot be used directly as an information manual. Even those users who can understand technical materials tend not to take the time to do so. Circuit riders can interpret technical information for the user and communicate it in several forms to reach local users. There are a number of advantages in using circuit riders to disseminate information. First, circuit riders have a great deal of flexibility in presenting new technologies and techniques. They can speak formally and informally with users, show videos, and leave behind printed materials. They can also offer hands-on experience in areas like computer programs. Also, circuit riders can offer one-to-one assistance. They can spend varying amounts of time in the field, explaining new procedures, and helping adapt them to local needs. Circuit riders have mobility and can reach a large number of local people at their own meetings, on their own grounds. Circuit riders can also survey user groups on local problems and current methodologies. They can make a grassroots appraisal of user needs and, in turn, relay this information back to sponsoring agencies. Many agencies use retired agency personnel as circuit riders. The next technique is conferences and short courses. While there are some differences between conferences and short courses, they are similar enough to be discussed jointly. A conference is generally thought of as an opportunity to exchange information on a general theme, while a short course is an educational program on a more narrow topic. As in the circuit rider approach, the thing that makes conferences and short courses such good channels of communication is the one-to-one contact that occurs among peers. In order to ensure this peer exchange, conferences and short courses must be structured to the needs of the user. In addition to technical needs, conference short course organizers must also take into account other potential user problems, like lack of money for travel and registration, and an inability to be away from the job for more than 1 or 2 days at a time. At the local level of highway operations, these time and budget constraints are extremely important. They should be taken into account, not only by individual conference planners, but also by organizations and agencies packaging short course materials. In order for any conference or short course to be effective, certain basic rules should be followed. Schedule courses to fit user needs. On the local level, this demands extensive pre-course planning. Carefully plan and advertise courses. Call local agencies directly and find out who would be the most appropriate participants in each area. Take advantage of local networks to reach potential attendees. Give participants as much advance information about the content of the session as possible. It might prompt them to think about the conference in terms of their own operation, and thus enable them to come to the session with specific questions in mind. Do your pre-planning homework and determine what brochures and videos are already available in the subject area. Pick speakers with great care. Emphasize to them the nature of their audience and the goals of the session. In dealing with technical specialists, make certain they do not talk down to or above the heads of the audience. Designate someone ahead of time to keep notes of ideas that emerge spontaneously from formal and informal sessions. Have these typed up and mailed to participants. Always use evaluation tools to help improve future conferences. Such evaluations should address the overall conference objectives and facilities, as well as the content and presentation techniques of individual speakers. Audiovisuals are another important technique. Communication research indicates that people remember 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, and 50% of what they hear and see. Given these percentages, the benefits of using audiovisual aids in the transmission of technical information are obvious. There are many types of visual aids available to speakers. They include videotapes, slides, flip charts, easel pads, handouts, chalkboards, and overhead transparencies. Video lending libraries are also used very effectively by many agencies. Videotapes exist on a wide variety of topics. There are some very simple guidelines for using all kinds of visual aids. Visual aids should be relevant and to the point. Prepare displays ahead of time and practice using them. Keep charts, graphs, and diagrams simple and clear. Use color effectively. Too much can cause the essential message to become blurred. Avoid visual busyness by omitting unnecessary details. Make them large enough for easy viewing. Use the visual aids at the best psychological point as clarification of the material, and have the display visible only when it is in use, so that it does not distract from the rest of the message. Technical notes are also a useful tech transfer technique. For the purposes of this program, a technical notice is a short summary of an innovation that includes a brief description of the innovation. Its purpose is to attract the attention of potential customers, not to describe it in great detail. As such, it is a tool to build awareness among potential users. It should read like a news release rather than a document abstract. Its language should be free from jargon, and its style simple and concise. In fact, technical here is a bit misleading, as it refers to the nature of the innovation rather than the content of the notice. Besides giving readers the name, address, and phone number of a contact person, it should include a detachable mailer or coupon, so the reader can find out more. A representative series of technical briefs were developed under the Strategic Highway Research Program. They are available from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. Always review individual course results as soon as possible after they have been conducted. Also, the entire program should be reviewed at least annually. In this course, we covered the basic procedures for establishing an effective technology transfer program, including the planning process, organizing the program, and implementing the program. For more information on this or other IRF videotapes, write to the International Road Federation or call the numbers on your screen.